I kind of wanted to cover some things, from back in the day. Because, like, sometimes I get myself kind of caught up in, like, this thought process, where I'm just kind of circling, like, certain eras of creation. And, like, I think that it's very, like, necessary to cover some of the early material from a standpoint of, like, admiration instead of, like, distancing. Because, like, I think there's a really real, like, place of just, like, where I was coming from with some of this early material, from 42 onwards to the black and white era of 2016. So I'd say, like, around 2017 when it got weird with, like, the weird Ableton stuff, when I got the new computer. But anything before that, where it was like a collection of, like, field recordings and, like, samples and, like, just really odd and, like, stabbing digital noise, like, from Bleak Ambitions to 731, I believe. Stuff like Operating Satisfied, Deadly Manhunt, Black Dahlia, Suicide Factory, In Vain, Non-Music. There was so many. Lobotomy. These early releases, they covered such a specific, like, thing that still is with me to this day, that I can't really find that sort of distance. The naivete was there, like, there was a real sense of naivete because I hadn't done something like that prior to those releases. And it was something very, like, personally affirming to me that it sounded so good. And then I got really paranoid later on in my career because I didn't think it reflected the music that I was making at the time. So when I would re-release it, I would, give content warnings and stuff because, like, it was fairly vitriolic and bitter and, like, in this very, like, cosmic horror sensibility because, like, back in the day I was really into, like, all the philosophy shit and stuff, and the cosmic horror never faded. It just, how I approach it is a lot different now. But, back in the day, I'd say, like, big inspirations were, like, horror films and, like, Call of Duty World at War and stuff, I grew up really into, like, learning about the Second World War and Vietnam and, like, I was really into, like, Nietzsche and stuff, and, like, really casually interested into, some of the countercultural movements, like, the Satanic Temple and stuff, like, not too much, but how it all, came together at the end of the day, I think that it was all, like, pretty interesting material, like, I look back now when I'm just trying to scratch that itch, and I realize, like, to me at least, the creations that I curated go, and do that for me. Because right now, I'm sitting around, I'm trying to watch, like, different horror films, and, like, I'm listening to, like, my most extreme music, my death industrial stuff, and, like, I'm looking through my book archive, like, my collection, or whatever, my little library, and it's just all, like, sometimes there's just something missing. Then I was watching this movie, this old film, and it was just all, like, shit. And I'm thinking of, like, Call of Duty World at War and stuff. And, like, I'm thinking of all the art I made back in the day. And I want to bring it back in some, like, really pungent, way that just matters, and is meaningful for people. By the way, I'm really sorry about my hair. This is, like, what it looks like after I've showered. It just gets really bad. But anyway, it's just, like, I'm really proud of my early material. I really am. Like, it was a process, and, like, I was practicing curation for years prior. 2013 started my first real, like, curation endeavors, and I didn't really start seriously making music until 2014, And when 2014, 2015 came around, I was making some of my earliest material, made by machines, which I've touched upon briefly in like my archive channel that used to be up. It's unlisted, I think, now. I'm just going to keep it that way until I can find a good use for it, because like right now there's no real good use for it. But made by machines, it started with like a horror concept in mind, where there's like an early fascination with like blood and stuff, and it's just really casual, and then it like the Black Box recording album, which was just like the last recorded sounds before a plane crashes. I think that was called Haunted. I don't think like that really exists. All the tracks might still be up, but like the Black Box recordings I obviously don't have up anymore. They're somewhere though. I don't know. But anyway. And then 42 comes around, and it's like my first conceptual album that just feels like there's this weight to it. I have like a lot of like religious themes, and like I think I named Heart and Soul after like the classic song instead of like the Joy Division song, but like later on I found the Joy Division song. I like that, but that's beside the point. But anyway, it was like this really like religious themed album, because like religion plays a pretty significant role in my family, whether like the culture directly affects me or not. You know what I mean? Like, I think the culture of religion, affects the broader population in some pretty morbid ways sometimes. And I think that anyone can tell you that. But, I don't want to be the one to preach that. Anyway, so I had this, like, religious-themed album. It's called 42. And then, like, right after it, I took some of those themes and I just dialed it up. It was called In Vain. In Vain was a collection of stories that I've read on the internet, because I used to be really into true crime. The Bjork Stalker was like one of them. I'm pretty sure I included like the classic, sound collection, the Black Hearts, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. The Vietnam like cassette campaign where they would just run with like these really haunting, insane sounding cassettes of just like wind sounds. Nowadays it sounds like something you'd hear from like the archive of like Roz Williams, like Birth, Death, Decay, you know what I mean? Like just these cassettes that had these like, Mom, Dad, why did you do this to me? Well, it's just like I'm the ghost of your children or some shit. I don't remember. But it's just like playing these like horrific sounds, and it's just like this early psychological warfare that just sounds like fucking industrial cassettes. And it's crazy. And there's only like a few, I think, because I was looking for them back in the day and I couldn't find a lot of them. But and just the concept was insane. And then it was just like all conceptual, you know what I mean? And there was so many things that just intrigued me. It was all like this horror, like thing. I tried to revive it a little bit, but I didn't really get far. Just with a project that was unfinished, that just kind of tied everything together loosely with like this weird SPK kind of narrative of like doctors versus patients. And it's just pretty much just like the 4chan meme of like schizophrenics versus psychotics, you know what I mean? Like, and all of these albums played this significant role as like tomes in this universe, and it was kind of like Wolfenstein 2009 or some shit. And it's just all like, you have all of these different factions that are fighting each other, and like the psychotics are like ruled by this group of like psychotic schizophrenics who are like the church, and like the bottom tier schizophrenics who are the patients, you know what I mean? Like there's all these layers and stuff, and like I don't know, it didn't feel right. But anyway, I just wanted to say, like, here's some of my influences, and like here's some of my early material, and like I don't know, it was pretty important to me. And like the black and white era, it was inspired by cassette culture for sure. And like I've said that before, but like I think Mother One was one of the first cassette albums I know that has some lyrics to it, and I wouldn't say that those lyrics are necessarily what intrigue me, because like if you guys ever listen to Mother One, it's like a live collection, and like they have some samples, and you know it's a little uncomfortable, a little fucked up, but it's whatever. Yeah. I'm gonna stop talking for a little bit, but I just want to talk about some things that I found important just about the early material, because like sometimes I do come back to it and I have fun with it, and like that's why I never want to take all this stuff down, because like all of it has a significant role. Some of it's like a documentation of a very specific time in my life, and then others are just all like really conceptually like significant, and like not all of my material is just like inconsistent. There's some stuff that just like inconsistent where I don't want it to be inconsistent. Like, I mean, there's like a few 2017 albums that were just like not quite there, and it's just all like The Bottom had some shitty songs on it. I reworked that. There was another one from like 2018 that had some shitty songs on it that I reworked. I have to rework them every now and then, but luckily it's not many. Noise Violence I had to rework. God, there's so many. But anyway, I think that there is a like significant thing that I want to tap into. I might revisit some of this stuff and like properly just like own up to it. I've always wanted somebody else to, but like I think that there's something there that I can do, you know. And you know, it's just it's fun. It really is to get this stuff out and just have like a intelligent conversation about just all like the direction of like where I want to take this and like the inspirations. Right now I'm listening to like MB and like Mount Houghton Orchestra and like Condom and Ramla and like Murder Corporation, and I'm just like I'm kind of taken back, and it's just all like maybe I should just all like show some love